HundrED, we believe change in education can only come from a co-created, shared vision for the future, involving all stakeholders. This is why we're actively building a global community of education innovators and passionate educators to work together and learn from each other to help improve education in every corner of the world. In this Masterclass series, you will hear from Abi Nokes, CEO of InHive from the United Kingdom, and Julie Clugage, Executive Director and co-founder for Team for Tech from the United States. They have both been successful in tapping into their networks and public-private partnerships for the benefit of their innovations. Both Masterclass teachers will offer key insights and practical tips on how to increase your impact through community.
Hello, my name's Abi and I'm here with my colleague Prerna, and we're going to give you a bit of a deep dive into networks today, which is what InHive is all about. So InHive specialises in alumni networks, which I know I'm biased, but from our perspective, these are a bit of a no-brainer. There literally is not one stakeholder that you have that will not benefit from you having a strong alumni network that's able to give you feedback, that's able to support your current students or participants, and that's able to carry some of your stories of your impact into the world. But today we're going to talk about the how, so sharing with you some of our tips and tricks that we've developed over the last however many years it is to share with you today to apply to your own context.
Hi everyone, so I'm Prerna, and at InHive we've been working for the last 7 years in alumni network building, and what we've learned and picked up as best practice is really that there are 5 key areas where we should be focusing on to develop a strong alumni network. So we're going to spend some time today going through some of these with you.
Fab, thanks. So the first is vision and purpose, and this is really important because it ensures that the very reason that you're investing in an alumni network is not just serving the agenda of one stakeholder or one individual. So what we're really keen on is that you listen to all of the different stakeholders across your organisation. So in many cases, this might be your current students, your teachers or your programme leads, your alumni, but also the staff at your organisation, and really thinking about how could this network serve the agenda of everyone. The second is making sure that you're not just listening to the loudest voices within those groups, but actually that you're really intentionally listening to those who might not usually have a voice, because ultimately you probably want this network to serve them as well. So an example of this is some work that we're doing in Pakistan at the moment, and we were listening to, we spoke to a number of girls in Year 9, so 14-year-old girls, and they were saying, oh, girls like us, it's quite rare for girls to finish school. And so we were really keen to make sure that we were listening not just to current students, but also to women who had dropped out, who hadn't actually completed secondary school, to understand how might this network have supported them, and how could they support it now and engage with it now.
Thanks, Abi. And really, when we think about alumni networks, we often think of the fun activities and the reunions that are all in our heads. But actually, to make those events a success and even make the network sustainable over the years, you need a strong leadership of the network and clear roles and responsibilities of who's going to be doing what within the leadership of the network. So what we often suggest is it's a great idea to be creative with your leadership and involve the young people who are the members of this network to actually lead it. And this is actually exactly the value that was taken forward with the MasterCard Foundation. We've been working with them to create one of the largest alumni networks in the African continent over the last year. And they were very keen to make sure this network was youth-led. So all of the committee members who are leading the events and activities of this alumni network are previous participants of their various scholarship and leadership programs.
It's a more cost-effective way of doing it as well.
Thanks, Abi. And then the next piece to focus on really is engagement. So obviously to run a network, you need your members and you need to be able to get in touch with them, which is why data is absolutely crucial. But this doesn't need to be complicated or technologically fancy. For example, in some of the schools we've worked in Uganda, they would just note down alumni's contact details in a notebook to be able to reach them. The other thing that's really important is not to try to create a whole new platform where you engage with alumni, but really go to where alumni already are. Often young people are already using WhatsApp, Telegram, or Facebook, so these are great platforms to be reaching alumni.
Thanks. This is probably the most exciting part of your alumni network, the activities, and where you'll really see the impact come to life. So the first thing is making sure that they do actually respond to need. So thinking back to that purpose we talked about a few minutes ago, really making sure that the activities are actually in line with the purpose that you want to achieve. The second thing is start small. It can be really tempting to have a really huge launch event, but that actually means that it's quite difficult to maintain that momentum over time. One of the things that I think is really effective that some schools in New Zealand have done over the last 6 months is to record videos of alumni talking about why they're proud of the school and one piece of advice that they want to share with current students. And it's a much simpler way, low on logistics, and really effective. The last thing is being really careful with your matching. So making sure that if you've got really charismatic, loud voices who love to present, great, they probably will be great in a training. But if your alumni might be a bit more retiring, a bit more reserved, it doesn't mean that they wouldn't be great and have a really important impact in your community. It just means they might be more effective as a mentor, for example. The last piece is around impact and evaluation, and this is a bit of a sticky point, I think, for a lot of programming. But the first thing, I should say, is just building in some time to do this and making it part of the practice of the community. A really simple way of doing this is just to capture start, stop, continue. So the things that you want to start, the things that you want to stop, the things that you want to continue, capturing those things on post-its after sessions, just to make sure you're listening and learning from the community. And then the last thing is defining success from the outset. So really spending time with that visioning and then going back to that vision statement and those purpose statements to think about what it is that you actually want to achieve through this network. So that's a bit of a whistle-stop tour of our approach to alumni network building. We talk about alumni networks in schools, but actually this could also equally be applied to volunteer networks, leadership programs, youth empowerment programs, or scholarship programs, for example. And we have worked with some of those as well. Finally, the reason that this is a circle rather than a line is because actually specifically with alumni networks, they're going to continue to grow over time, and actually every successful and effective network is going to incorporate its new members into the ongoing planning of the network. Thank you very much for taking some time to listen to our top tips and tricks today. We look forward to diving into this in a bit more detail with you at the summit.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining for this session on building public-private partnerships through human-centered design. I'm Julie Clugage, co-founder and executive director of Team for Tech. So let me just start by telling you a bit about Team for Tech. We are a nonprofit organization based in Silicon Valley, and our mission is to advance the quality of education for underserved learners around the world through technology solutions and capacity building. The way we do that is through partnerships. So basically, we source a pipeline of innovative, education-focused NGOs from around the world. These are community-based organizations who are doing great work in education and have a vision for how they can amplify their impact on teaching and learning through the integration of relevant education technology. We scope out annual projects for 3 to 5 years with them. And then we engage technology companies to provide financial sponsorship and to engage their employees as pro bono volunteers on the projects. And so we bring both sides together, providing grants for the purchase of education technology and the pro bono support for capacity building for the education NGOs. And in doing this work, we take a design thinking lens. And so we strongly believe it's not us versus them, us on behalf of them, but it is us with them. So that's what we want to talk about today, is kind of sharing our experience of how to use human-centered design and that lens to build win-win public-private partnerships. Most of us are familiar with this design thinking process. It begins with empathy. How do we develop empathy for our customers? In this case, our partners, our stakeholders on both sides. So for us, one valuable tool has been this empathy map that you can use with your customers. What are they saying about what they want? What are they doing? How do they go about things? But also, what can you infer about what they're thinking, what matters to them, what they might be shy about stating, or, about what they like or don't like about the proposal. What do they feel? What are they afraid of? What do they feel like is risky? What do they feel is exciting? What do they secretly, hope to get out of the collaboration? So this is one tool you can look into a bit further as you, interview your partners about what matters to them. In our case, this was our first project back in May 2013. And it was our prototype, basically. It's where we brought employees together from our first corporate partners, and we worked with an NGO in Kenya to advance early literacy through, teacher training and the integration of adaptive learning software for literacy and basic numeracy. Here are a couple of things that we learned. So from the private sector side, by talking with these companies, with the employees, and also doing, human capital research, we learned a few important things. One was that employees want a sense of purpose in their work, and they want learning opportunities. Particularly for millennial employees, these priorities rank right at the top of the list for what they're looking for in their job. Social impact leaders or corporate social responsibility leaders want as many employees as possible to feel meaningful, engaged with the company and with their work while making a difference. And then learning and development leaders want to build real world capabilities that are going to help them on their day job. And through the human capital literature and by talking with all of our corporate partners, we were able to zero in on these 5 key capabilities as, what were most valuable to our L&D stakeholders at companies. So how to promote customer-centric innovation, decision-making amidst ambiguity, growth mindset, communication and collaboration, and leadership around diversity, equity, and inclusion is what they really cared about. And then on the NGO side, what did they care about? They wanted to amplify their impact through technology, but there were a lot of risks. So limited IT staff capacity made it hard to even know where to start. Partnerships and the corresponding funding needed to allow for long-term experimentation. They were really afraid to start down a path that they weren't going to be able to finish. And then they really wanted local beneficiaries to be part of designing the solution, to own the solution. And so this led us to a few key takeaways that, partnerships did need to be long-term. We needed to assure them that we would be there from the beginning to the end of the journey, that we needed to be completely platform agnostic. So we provide the grants, but the local NGO partner owns the decision of what technology to purchase. And so I think this is the first prompt I would offer to you, for your own reflection, is that it's so important to build empathy, to create these trusting partnerships. At Team for Tech, we're very intentional about building in time in the training and the preparation we do for each of our pro bono projects for both sides to really get to know each other and to use that customer empathy map to understand each other's motivations, fears, dreams. So just, I would ask you, how are you working to build deep, trusting partnerships with the stakeholders with whom you're working? The other thing that we've learned is that monitoring and evaluation is so important for rapid iteration. So we ask each of our NGO partners to select success metrics related to learner outcomes, engagement, teacher and staff productivity, and then organizational sustainability and scale. And then they report back every 6 months on, how we're doing together towards those goals. And this is what allows us to step back and reflect and adjust as needed. So each solution we're putting in place each year is a prototype, and then we're measuring and iterating and adjusting. And the nice thing about long-term partnerships is that it allows us to do that. So for the private sector, what they care about is, growth in employees' leadership skills, employee engagement, employee loyalty to the company. And these are some of the metrics we get back. We survey employees right after a project 4 months later, and then we also survey their managers about how they're applying what they learned onto their day job. So this helps us adjust our employee volunteer facing training and the scaffolding we provide them on our pro bono projects. For the NGOs, we ask them, how are their staff and teachers feeling about the capacity building workshops they've received? Is it helping them, integrate technology into day-to-day teaching and learning? Is it making an impact with their students? And these are some of the data points that we hear back. But I think the key takeaway is, how are you measuring the success of your partnerships, and at what intervals? Ideally, you're measuring pretty frequently so that everyone can adjust, and you're viewing each engagement as a prototype leading to an even better iteration next time. So I think those are the key lessons we would leave you with. Just, sharing our experience. For Team for Tech, we've been able to leverage this approach to reach 80,000 learners over the past 8 years through our partnerships with 30 nonprofit partners in 19 countries, and by engaging over 700 tech professionals from 35 companies on our pro bono projects. We would love to hear from you if you have ideas of NGOs who could benefit from our support. We run an annual application process and are always looking for organizations who can benefit. Similarly, if you are an EdTech solutions provider, we maintain a toolkit that we provide to our NGO partners of relevant solutions that might help them achieve their goals around improved learner outcomes. So we would love to hear from you on that as well. Thank you for your time, and look forward to getting to know you as part of this community.